So why are you here? Why medicine? Why are 50% of physicians in this country right now clinically burnt out? Why are 75% of medical students on either antidepressants, anxiolytics, or stimulants? 75%. Why are we having an epidemic of mental health disorders in the mental health community? And that's why you're here. That's why you're taking this course, is because we're going to nip that in the bud right now. See, we spend so much time focusing on learning what we need to know to practice our art of medicine. Doesn't matter if you're a dentist or a chiropractor or a doctor or a physician assistant or any of those. We all have this enormous amount of energy that we need to shove into us